Hello and welcome to SPSS 1, the final part S29, where we just do a little bit of analysis at the end. We'll carry on with this in future sessions, but just to show you what you can do with the explore commands, how easy it is once you've got all that work done with the data, getting the data here, then go to explore, and the things we're interested in, which is all the first 7 questions down to there. They go in the dependent list. And the factor list, we want to see are there any differences between people depending on their diet, which is down there. See if that makes a difference. See if parents worked or lived overseas. Males and females, what's that to? Okay. And nationality. And if you can think of any other categories as well, you can put them into this thing. As for, let's get the same plots as before. It's pretty, and let's get rid of that. Histograms, box plots are good. There we go. And just see if I can, I might have to pause it if it takes a while for it to whir. My computer is being slow today. So I can't find the output. Oh, no, there we go. So it's finally produced an enormous number of results just from that one command, and you can really just pick over these. Here it's just looking at telling you how many people were in each category. Breakdown. So among the people that gave different answers for migration, the vegetarians, vegans, and so on. Among the people that answered this question, this is how many people there were in different dietary categories, but these are the ones that are more interesting. So, okay, migration rights among the vegans, 6.5, vegetarians 6, fish 6.5, don't eat red meat 4.5, do eat red meat 5.4. So comparisons there. Wealth, does wealth make you happy? Vegans think 2.5, vegetarians 3.83. Fish, oh, it seems quite clear. I don't eat red meat. I do eat red meat. So red meat people are much more, according in the sample, it seems that red meat people here are much more keen on saying that wealth does make you happy compared to the vegans who don't think that wealth makes you happy, and the vegetarians are somewhere in between. That's surprising. Military vegans 4.5 think it's never justified. Vegetarians slightly less so. Fish but not meat more so. And red meat less so. So red meat are less likely to say vegetarian, but military intervention is never justified. Environmental value depends entirely, or depends ultimately on what the environment does for humans. Vegans, very low rate of agreement with that. Vegetarians, still pretty low. Meat eaters, I bet, yeah, twice as much, if that makes sense. So meat eaters are more likely to think the value of the environment depends more on its importance for humans. Possibly not so much here. Geographical, I'm going to compare mainly vegans to red meat because those are two extremes here. Vegans and vegetarians. So geography developments, okay, 5 on the was that the main cause of underdevelopment or an important cause? Red meat. So less agreement with that. So no real, not the expected pattern there. Boycotting 4.7 compared to red meat 5. So yeah, so people that eat red meat are more likely to think it's harmful to boycott. Okay, the vegan things here 4 compared to 4.4, so again higher. So red meat people are more likely to believe in universal values rather than local cultural norms. Interesting. These histograms, they're not so interesting because these, maybe I shouldn't have done histograms here because they're just really pie charts, bar charts are better here. So they're not so exciting. These ones where you're looking at the views where there's more of a spread along here, the different answers to migration rights. So these are This is the different diets. Here, different dietary goals, that's a clearer thing because it's labelled. So you can see not the migration rights thing, slightly higher among the vegans. I think the box plots are more revealing in these. Does wealth make you happy? Red meat is slightly higher than vegans and vegetarians. History of the box plots, probably military intervention never justified. Seems quite a clear kind of downward trend there from the towards the meat eaters. So less likely to say, and the vegans, that's the median person, down to the red meat eaters is lower there. So that one thing SPSS just produced masses of output, so you need to be good at picking through and seeing what's the good stuff, formatting that nicely and putting it into your dissertation or essay instead of just handing in hundreds of pages of this stuff because it produces so much. That's quite a clear one. Does the environment depend ultimately on what it does for us? So people that eat meat but not red meat or eat red meat are more likely to say yes than vegans and vegetarians, according to this, with the mass the whole distribution is. Okay, let's go down to some other things because you can read through this for yourself. So here we're looking at the next thing down was looking at the whether your parents were or were not involved in overseas activity. Let's look at some box plots there. So parents, yes or no. Migration rights. Okay, slightly lower if parents were involved in development. Wealth, happy. More likely to say no if your parents were. More likely to say no. More likely to think that wealth makes you happy if your parents were not involved in development. Military intervention, not really much difference there. Environmental value, again, not a lot of difference. A few more outliers with the nose. Clear differences there. It's a bit more there. Is geography here. So remember, the yes and no is about your parents. So physical geography, if your parents were not involved in development, they're more likely to think that physical geography, like the heat and the lack of rainfall and so on in less developed countries, that's the more of a reason why they're less developed. If your parents were involved in development themselves or lived overseas, you're less likely to think that. Boycotting, again, similar pattern, the no's and the yeses. Local and universal norms. Interesting to think that the parents, people whose parents were involved in development seem to be more likely to think that universal norms tend to trump local, universal values trump local norms. And this was looking at differences between males and females in a lot of the same things. So these sort of simpler comparisons should be, so migration rights, not a lot of difference there. The median's the same as 6. Military election, never, not a lot of difference there actually. Median's the same at 3, slightly more of a spread. The females like to say it's never justified. A huge difference though. Environmental value, it's a bit more of a clear difference then. The actual median's a whole step apart, and there's more spread of the females this way towards saying that environmental value is more likely to come from the ultimately the good it does to humans. And geography and the differences there. So not that many differences between males and females in the answers. Boycotted, no. Local universal norms. Females more likely to believe in universal norms compared to local ones. And then nationality. Migration rights, yeah. So unfortunately, the sample size is quite small for some of these, so you can't tell much. But the medians are all the same at 6 that people have a right to migrate, and just a few UK citizens. Among the people that do think that migrants don't have a right to migrate freely, more likely, or among those people, there's more UK citizens. But the views as a whole, there doesn't seem much difference between the groups. Does wealth make you happy? Non-UK UK citizens seems to be higher. There's probably about 3 people that quite a big difference. Non-EU citizens much less likely. So it looks here as though the non-EU citizens are much less likely to believe that wealth makes you happier than the rest of the EU. I suppose it doesn't make any sense anymore because we're now outside, technically. Military never, same sort of pattern. Never, the non-UK EU citizens more likely to think military intervention is never justified. Environmental value, UK citizens much less, seems on this, clearly less, most people are less convinced that the value of the environment comes from what it does for humans compared to people from the rest of the EU and non-EU citizens. And geographical development, people from outside of Europe are less likely to think that geography was an important factor, physical geography, compared to people from Europe, including the UK. And boycotting goods, yeah, not many differences there. Okay, so you can see it takes 10 times longer to sort through the stuff that comes out of SPSS than it does to do the analysis. So in SPSS, masses of work getting the data there into a form that can analyse it. Seconds just to do the analysis, and then ages to pour over the results afterwards. Whereas in Excel it's a bit different. It just takes a long time to put the formulas in. Okay, so if you've got through as far as this last video, congratulations, and I hope you've enjoyed your first test of SPSS, and I look forward to seeing how you got on in the live workshops. But for now, thanks for watching.